Hi everyone, I'm Roxana Nagy, and this is the first episode of Women in Spatial, a podcast amplifying the voices, ideas, and impact of women building the future of spatial computing. My guest today is a French tech entrepreneur that co-founded her first spatial computing company at 19, was featured in Vanity Fair's 30 Under 30, and was named one of Le Figaro's 20 Young Leaders to Watch for the next 20 years. Soraya Jaber, co-founder of Studio Meije, welcome to Women in Spatial.
Thank you for having me.
So we are just preparing, and we're like almost 2 weeks away from WWDC, less than, and we're gonna both be there in person. I can't wait to see you there and also meet some of the other people from the community. Are you excited? Are you prepared?
I'm very excited. It will be my first WWDC. For the 50th anniversary of Apple. It's an honor to have been invited, and I'm really, really excited to meet the community, meet the people there, and enter the Apple Park because I went there from the outside a bunch of years ago. It was in 2018, I think, the last time I came there, and yeah, I'm definitely very excited to be there and meet you and all the other person of the community.
Amazing. And I'm really excited to have you as a guest. And also, one of the many reasons why I'm so excited to speak with you today is because your team, Studio Meije, and Tom as well, together with Oliver from Contextual, have been running the visionOS developer survey. So it's just closing down. You're just preparing the report and the findings. So I think it will be really great if we can get some insights, a little bit of early insights into kind of what the data is showing and what's the sentiment of the community, especially as we just prepare to go into WWDC.
Yeah, exactly. It will be released at the beginning of June. It's the first edition of the survey, and the second edition as a professional survey that focused on developers and designers. So it's really from the community that are building the application and experiences on the Apple Vision Pro. So to be honest, it's not a massive market study. It's only 123 completed responses, so it's not that huge. But it's also because we don't have millions of Apple Vision Pro users and thousands of developers on that platform. So it's quite representative, I think, of the community and the ecosystem. So it's what we can see and what you'll see when discovering the results. It's a tiny but very engaged community. We have 63% of the respondents said they plan to increase their investment in visionOS over the next 12 months. So it's great things to know. And 85% are optimistic about the future of the Vision Pro software platform. A bit less in the hardware part. The platform is promising, but is still blocked by hardware, performance, price, comfort, and I think we'll dive into that during our conversation. And also the side of the market, because as you know, a developer needs also a consequent market to release their platform and to have a budget also for developing and releasing the platform. So the software sentiment is strong, but the hardware sentiment is more cautious. And I think also as it's Apple Vision Pro was announced 3 years ago now and released 2 years ago. So it's like the community is not naive anymore. So it sees the potential, but it also sees very clearly what still needs to improve.
And did you get a feeling of what they're building? Because I think everybody who is working with Apple Vision Pro and visionOS is trying to look for the signals. What is Apple hinting? What is the community building? Where to put your focus? Because there's many paths you can take. You can go into enterprise. You can go into immersive video, which is really picking up now. Did you get a feeling of what the community is building and what they're focusing on?
Yeah, actually, it's one of the questions that was asked during the survey. And the first category is entertainment, selected by 49% of respondents. So half of the answer is it's entertainment. The second one is productivity with 38%. So it's different from the last year. We can see also a focus on enterprise, 5% more than last year, with 41% of respondents who target enterprise instead of consumer. So there's also a more focused community and developers on that side. And also, what they are struggling with most is funding and money. It's the first reason. The biggest blocker is not technical development anymore. It's really how the market drives the development and the experience release. So funding and money, and then still education, awareness, product market fit. Those are the things the community and developers are still struggling, and specifically this year.
And I think being part of the community, I think it's you can tell and you can see, and when you speak with your friends, this is very obvious. And being sustainable and having sustainable business only focused on visionOS is something quite difficult to do. And you have a great example with Studio Meije, and we'd love to hear more about that later on. It's a very close community, and it's one that, like, everybody helps each other, and it's very interesting. And
Yeah.
do you see any changes, or do you see something different compared to last year? There were some things you were already picking up with the enterprise and
Yeah, so an increase in the enterprise aspect. Also, to follow up on the Apple community, and that's an amazing community for sure. And also, there are 92% that mainly use a native Apple stack, so which is a quite focused community, and they don't really use Unity, Unreal, or other software to develop their experience. So it's like all-in community for most of them. And compared to last year, the conversation last year was still very much about discovery. Still, 1 year, it was the first year of Apple Vision Pro on the market. So I think people were trying to understand the device, OS, the design patterns, the tools, also the App Store, how to release the application, how to have retention of on the application, and what works and what does not. This year we have it feels a little more mature in the survey, and also more realistic, as I mentioned. So more respondents have published apps now. So we have 57% have at least one app published on the Vision Pro App Store, and through enterprise distribution. So compared with last year, it was 52%, so a bit more. And native development is also stronger, as I say, with 92% among developers. And at the same time, as I said, funding is a barrier. And also, yeah, hardware optimism dropped compared to last year. So we have more confidence in the visionOS than the hardware. So that's why we wait for announcement during the WWDC. So yeah, that's are the main difference between the 2025 survey and 2026.
it's very interesting that every year WWDC is always like bringing us up back in the hill of hopes and wish lists, and we start to see a lot of wish lists of what people want to get. And I know it was one of the questions in the survey. Have you seen any kind of trends or something specific that everybody's hoping for? Apple announces in a couple of weeks, something that would really change the conversation or make everything better.
Yeah. Actually, the community is waiting for an official signal for Apple that they still believe in visionOS, and specifically on Apple Vision Pro, because as you know, we heard so many bad press in the past weeks and months, and actually since the beginning of Apple Vision Pro, to be honest. So yeah, we need confidence. We need confidence and official confidence from Apple. Also in the survey, the most requested future Apple special product is a non-pro Apple Vision headset. So we have 63% of respondents that wanted a Apple Vision Pro Air or non-professional device. And just behind that, Apple Vision Pro smart glasses with a display at 60%. So those are the two hardware most wanted devices. And so we need the next device cycle. It's been 2 years with the same device. We have a refresh with the M5 at the end of last year, but we can see more. We want more on the hardware. And on the software side, the community is quite happy with what they have, but they also are asking for more maturity, so better APIs, better SDKs, stronger reality kit, better immersive media workflows, better multi-user experiences, and overall better enterprise deployment. But we also at Studio Meije made a wish list for visionOS 27. So we talked about better OpenUSD support, better Cloud XR, and remote rendering in general, a bigger reality kit update, a spatial Siri. We expect a lot about the Siri capabilities and as everyone, and visual intelligence, and also less enterprise setup friction. We saw quite difficulties for the companies when they want to set up the device for different people. So maybe some improvement on that part too. And stronger Godot support. So everything goes through the right direction, and we have strong signals from Apple and from how serious they are with spatial computing. And I think spatial computing became real with Apple. It's the first time we saw that kind of dedication in those technologies, and we've been working with all the constructors, and that's why we decided to focus quite exclusively on the Apple platform. So we have confidence, trust, and yeah, we hope we have great announcements in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I think everybody who's been building, it's like once you are inside this technology, once you experience it, once you get to see what is possible to build with it, it's like it's so hard to go back. And of course, it's not there yet in many ways, right? Price and the
Yeah.
form factor, and but I always say, like, I'm so happy that Apple released it as it is right now, because it really allows us as creators to play with it, to try, to test, to really, because building for spatial computing, it has been such, my background is in iOS, and while you could say that it's, you know, still Apple and platform, there's, especially in coding, right, is the same language. Designing and building and things that you put on paper and then you test them out in spatial computing are completely different. It's like, it's really, really incredible, and it's nothing like I've ever seen before. And everybody who's building, I would say, is so passionate about it, and we just hope that we continue to receive news that will fuel that passion, so we can continue to do amazing
Definitely.
things.
Yeah. I want to thank also the respondent of the survey, and also Oliver and Tom, who made that survey for this year.
And the report will be coming up quite soon, so everybody can go and check it out. And I think, yeah, if they follow you and Tom and Oliver, I'm sure it's gonna go around in the community.
Also about survey, because this one is really focused on the builders and developers of the community, visionOS. But what I want, and I think I'll do at the end of this year, it's survey more oriented business to better to share and give thoughts and feedback from the buyers, the decision makers, and the users of Apple Vision Pro, the projects that have been developed and released and put in production. So more oriented. It's two different population. Sometimes it could be the same, as we have owner of different companies that answer to that survey. But yeah, another survey more oriented business would be great. Will be shared with you, with the listeners, and also you, if you want to be part of that study.
Of course, yeah, and I look forward. It's always great to get those insights because we try to do all this guesswork and just hearing from the community, hearing from the users. It's always like we remove that guesswork. So it really helps us if you're trying to have a business, if you want to try to build apps and experiences for this platform. It really, really helps. So
Yeah,
yeah, great work there, and can't wait to see that one as well. What is also very interesting and kind of going into the next topic is that in spatial computing and all these builders that we see that are doing experiences and apps and immersive video and whatever they're building, they're coming from such different paths, and they're coming from some, like, all of them have such interesting stories. And I think you have a really incredible story as well. You were
thank
19
you.
years old when you started a company, Opuscope, and you raised 8 million euros. And
Private and public.
yeah, that's such an interesting story. And I would love to, kind of like, if you could take me back to when you were 19. What was the spark and what gave you the courage? Because a lot of, like, I didn't go in that path. I took a more traditional and studies and then corporate and so on. So I'm really curious to hear your story and how you got started in the first place in spatial computing.
Yeah, sure. We started quite early. It was actually in 2015 when we started, and when I was 19. We were students with my partner, and everything began as a student project. So with Tina, which is still my partner today. So we both have a scientific background, and we studied. I was studying history and art at university, and she was studying engineering at school. And it was the encounter of us, basically, the meeting of our two patients that began to be the company Opuscope in 2016. So we were yeah 19 and 20 at that time, and our goal was to reinvent access to art and history through immersive technologies. So at that time, 2015, 2016, it was quite the beginning of that industry. Actually, it's not true because uh, VR is quite old. So
I think 2016 was peak Pokemon Go, I think. It really
yeah,
got more
right before.
mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah, and specifically for the augmented reality part. But at that time, 2016 and 15, it was the Oculus DK1 and DK2. It was after the acquisition by Meta. So we have, the cycle adoption of of new technologies in general, and we are at the beginning of the heat for VR and AR. And also, we had the opportunity, and specifically Tina, which was Microsoft Regional Director, which is the title of high consultancy for Microsoft Corp. And she has the luck to try the Microsoft HoloLens more than 10 years ago, 2 years before the release in France and Europe. And we started to develop on that platform. And the first time I tried it, I was mind blown. And we saw like the beginning of this new computing era. And at that time, I was a student in history and art, and I see the potential for that industry, for cultural and heritage, and in both way to empower the physical exhibition how to have more information around artworks and augment our surrounding. So with augmented reality, but also bring museum at home and for the people who couldn't go to museum, as my grandfather. So with virtual reality, he could at that time visit museums. So we wanted to provide a platform to easily create experiences for that industry. So it was the beginning of, it was the creation of the company in early 2016 on the Microsoft HoloLens. So we partnered with the French Ministry of Culture, and we started to deploy and to test. It wasn't a deployment yet, but we started to test and prototype with museums to let them create immersive experiences by themselves. Because actually, I always wanted to give the tools to creative people because we are not all developers. I'm not. I never wanted to develop, and I always wanted to bring more accessibility in the tools. And at that time, if you didn't develop on Unity, complex technical platform, 3D platforms, you can't release anything on this device. So we really wanted to offer platform and immersive platform. We made the choice to create immersive platform that run inside the headset. So it was on Microsoft HoloLens at the beginning, and we wanted to be available on all the devices on the market. And the solution was Mintar Studio. So we started with the cultural industry, and then we realized that it was the same experiences creation with other industry. And we started in 2016 to have interest from other industry, from different kind of enterprises that wanted to have their own experiences on the HoloLens and Meta and all the devices. We decided to create an horizontal platform, an horizontal tool to let any kind of creative studio easily create experiences and application on this device without running through Unity. So it was a layer behind Unity that you can use as you want on the device.
Yeah, it's incredible. And what is really, to me, fascinating is that this was 10 years ago, and we already see
Yeah,
that it's still
too soon.
hard to convince.
Yeah,
It's yeah,
still.
I mean, and it's like it's still, we're saying we're pioneering, we're early days, and that was 10 years ago. So we were
Yeah,
like really, really there at the start of it. And how did you even, like, I think you, maybe that's the start of you creating this craft of selling spatial computing, because it's one thing to build and have the ideas, but also to sell it. I think for me personally, that's the most
definitely.
difficult part.
Yeah.
And how did you go about, like, 10 years ago? Like, it was a matter of meeting the right people or having the right partners. Like, what was it this made you get all this funding and fund this project and continue to keep it as a sustainable business?
Yeah, that's a good question. And being early is not always being right also. So we were a pioneer for sure. We developed so many things, so many premiere in many industry, but all the time we had to explain the technology. So there were a huge part of evangelization of how to um, explain those technologies, because at that time people didn't know at all what are augmented reality, virtual reality, and also the community loved to invent many terms, and it was mixed reality at that time, and XR.
Had extended reality and
Extended reality too. That one I never used that one, but yeah, and so it brought confusion with confusion, and it doesn't help the market. But I think now today people understand what is augmented reality and virtual reality. most of them already use a device. So yeah, now they now understand the technologies. And also this could be hard because the first impression matters. And sometimes many of them were disappointed with their first experience on VR and AR. So yeah, it was a big part of evangelization, democratization, how to explain these technologies, and also explain the value of them. So today it's more mature. We know where is the value, but it was 10 years of R&D, to be honest. It was a big innovation lab where we also, by providing the creation tool, we had the opportunity to be close on the market and see what has been created with the technologies when the technical parts, the technical barriers is put on the side. And also we have the luck to work closely with the constructor. I mentioned Microsoft, but we also worked closely with Meta, with Magic Leap. We won the content contest. What was the name? Independent Creator Contest in 2019, and that allows us to develop Minsar Studio on the Magic Leap, and the team were wonderful too. And we also work closely with Google on the geospatial anchors. We were one of the first enterprise has been working with them on these technologies. It was with one of our application, Wonderland, that allows 3D artists and creative people to locate 3D content and artwork in the environment. So it was also funny and great application we've made, but still a niche market, an emerging market. So a lot of trials and errors, and still today, software is more advanced. AI changed a lot of things in terms of development, for sure. Hardware is slower to see improvement, but still, in 10 years, so many things happened. 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And what you were saying as well, that you got the support of those companies, and I think that really helps a lot. I know I worked a little bit with HoloLens as well. It was two. I don't know how it was one. Pretty impressive piece of
Yeah,
technology, and the way it works.
definitely. Mm,
And Microsoft, I did this activation with the HoloLens at the Museum of the Future. We had
cool.
it was a diplomatic relationships anniversary between Japan and UAE, and I created this experience. Well, it was using one of their, I believe it was the Mesh app, if I remember correctly, but it allowed you to go into the shared space with somebody else. So we got to have a calligraphy artist, Emirati calligraphy artist, in the museum in Dubai. And then we had one calligraphy artist in Japan, also with the HoloLens, and they connected into a shared space. Of course, you had this avatars, nothing close to what we get with spatial personas, and they did this kind of like live active like experience where they would do calligraphy in the air, and it was a very beautiful moment. But what I really, really liked is that I didn't speak with Microsoft before. I just kind of reached out to them. I'm doing this, and they were there to support. So it was like immediately they came, they gave support. So I think that really helps, especially when you're working with this new technologies. So it's great you got that from Microsoft and Google, and I think we all hope today, as we work with visionOS and Apple Vision Pro, to get
Yeah.
something like that from Apple as well.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And they do. And I think it's really important for constructors to have real feedback from the market, because they can't do all the evangelization, and they really need to be deep dive into the enterprise and also consumer conversation to really understand where is the value, and where they need to invest and develop. So I think it's super important to take care of the community, for Apple, for all of them. So yeah, it's really great, and to have this kind of opportunities, like the developer labs session during the summer, and also for WWDC. It's amazing to have this kind of yeah, dedication.
Yeah, and I think we'll have some fun events and some really exciting stuff
Yeah.
happening in Cupertino. And yeah, and just to kind of like fast forward now into 2026, you are at Studio Meije. And tell me a bit what you do. You focus mostly now on Apple Vision Pro, right?
Yeah, definitely. And actually, when we were doing Opuscop, the previous company, we kept saying we need a proper way to build AR VR apps, and this is exactly what visionOS provides, with Reality Kit, Swift UI, AR Kit. So I think the turning point was in 2023, when the Apple Vision Pro were with the Apple Vision Pro announcement. It was amazing. It was the device we've been waiting for so long, um, even if it's a pass-through device, and not a see-through as we used to develop with the HoloLens, Magic Leap, and others. But it started to have proper tool to develop. So it was really important for us, and it changed also for our client, our customers. They can also have a long-term vision with the Apple Vision Pro. So yeah, I hope it will continue.
All right. So you're saying like from your point of view, yes, Apple Vision Pro comes with this incredible hardware, but it also comes with what it needs to build experiences, which was quite
Yes,
hard to do
the most important
before.
thing. Exactly,
Right.
exactly. What was on
Yeah, yeah.
Unity, Unreal, and quite hard to maintain, to update, and still is today. So I think that was a game changer in the industry, and that's why we decided to develop exclusively on that platform, and to be the more so better on that platform, and to create a Studio Meije, on this device, and with the end game and vision of smart glasses, which is why I started everything 10 years ago, and still wait for the perfect smart glasses that helps us in our daily life, and help us to better understand our surroundings, and how things works. So yeah, to the Mage, we also change our way to develop application and software. Before the Opuscope, it was an horizontal platform where anyone can develop quite everything, and on a cross-platform. Today, we develop vertical application for one use case. So we really wanted to separate the software and better address our customers and the enterprise, and also because today is more easy to do that. It's way easier to create software that's crazy how fast we can develop. So yeah, but the main learning, I'd say, to not have something that fits for all, because it doesn't, or it is hard, especially in an emerging industry. And still today, it's quite hard to create a SaaS, software as a service, on this device. There are not many SaaS available on the market. It's most of the time an agency part and development part, agency development part. So we have one-off experiences, and what we really want to do is to have application we can use longer, and have application that really brings value to enterprise and value to the platform.
Great. And you mentioned also AI and how, yeah, it's really incredible how fast it's changing everything. And I know you're quite AI forward as a studio. I would love to hear what you think and how do you make use of it. I know I've been seeing Tom sharing quite a lot of behind the scenes of him using AI.
Yeah, it is.
But beyond that, like as a studio, as a tech entrepreneur, how do you think that the role is changing now that you have AI and you have all these tools that you can use?
Yeah, actually, it changed everything. That's crazy how the world is changing. How people slowly realized also how value creation is also changing, and that's why we today we prefer to stay a small and lean company, startup studio. We were 35 at our first company, so it's a lot of time to work and manage people. And I really love that. We had an amazing team. And today, and also because it's still an emerging market, so it's hard to provide enough for dozens of people, basically dozens of employees. And we can see many studios out there that struggle with the since the Gen AI and all the improvements in development, because we have less demand, there are less content creation needs. So I think it's better to be small, to be lean, and to the adapt to the market, adapt to enterprises, and also bring real value. And in that value part creation, I think there's an important part of how to accompany human, how to I spend most of my time with people outside of the company, and inside is a lot of AI that help us better iterate, better go from prototyping to production. But in that way, we can um, better see and know which is the best application and experience. And also in the survey, we have 86% of respondents that use AI for code and development. So it's quite huge and very well integrated now in the development. We see um, the inflection point with in 2026 with AI that develops better than the best developers around the world. So it's mostly how to supervise and prompt. So yeah, development changed a lot. And also in the survey, we have 56% that use AI for writing, research, and also audio, images, texture, 3D. So in every kind of development. And that's also what we do at Studio Meije. We use AI everywhere. But it also raised a lot of concerns about that, about what we can do with all the humans, and don't have the answer yet. I think humanity can adapt, but the changes are so fast. The changes are so fast. It's hard to follow, and it's hard for large company, for countries also to adapt. So I know it's not the subject of of our podcast, but we can't.
You
Yeah,
cannot avoid talking about AI
yeah,
now, and it's actually funny because even when I was hosting the Step Into Vision weekly office hours, I don't think there's been, I think for months and months and months, like I think since last autumn, every single week we turned into an AI conversation because now it's like everybody's using it, and I've been exploring it quite deeply in the past months for coding, and really I'm so impressed. And I think as long as you treat it as a companion and not as like somebody who replaces you, and I always like to go and really be the creative. I think creative technology just now really starts to be the role that we mentioned it before, but now it really makes sense. And I go and I do a prompt, and I always go back and forth, and I always put my thoughts into it.
Yeah.
And I think if we have a healthy relationship with it, it can really be something great. I know when I started to go deeper into coding with AI, I was kind of searching on YouTube, and I started to see all this like hustle videos, like, look at me, I'm building 10 apps overnight. And like that kind of, it's not what I want to aim for. Like what I want to aim is like to be able to use AI for, maybe the mundane task, and like leave more space for me to be more creative and maybe spend more time with my family. Or like, I think
Yeah.
that's like
Definitely.
what I like to see as AI, as a companion. And there's one thing that I noticed, which is really incredible, is before, when you wanted to do a new feature, and this applies to spatial computing because I've been playing with some things. When you think of a feature, you kind of estimate it, like this would take you, if you do it without AI, maybe a month. And then you
Yeah.
say, is it really worth it to do this feature or not? Like you try to prioritize it. But now, because everything happens so fast and it's a matter of a prompt, it's like, I think we're going to start to see some really interesting features that you might not have done before because it would have taken too much time. And
Yeah.
maybe it's like extra niceness here and there is now much more accessible. And talking about accessibility as well, is
Yeah.
I've been
Definitely.
using, you know, I've been in a corporate before. We had agency, we had clients, and accessibility was always like such a weird space to estimate and to fit it in and to prioritize it. But now it's like, I would say no excuse to really make
Yeah.
so I love it. I'm learning how to use it. I'm learning how to have, as I said, a healthy relationship with it. But
Yeah.
it's really changing this field. And and at Studio Meije, you focus quite a lot on enterprise, and especially in this context, as you work with clients. And do you feel like, there's a lot of noise? Everybody knows there's a lot of noise with Vision Pro, and we always get the bad PR, the bad news, and the price and the form factor.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Like when you are pitching a project or you're talking with somebody, I've seen it happen at networking events when I say, I'm working with Apple Vision Pro, and then, oh, isn't that,
Dead.
discontinued? And it's like, how do you
Yes. All the time.
how do you handle that? How do you respond? Like, how do you find that
Yeah. Um, yeah, for sure. We met so many skeptical people about the Vision Pro, and for sure when we read what the press and media said, it's hard to not think that. So, and also I don't try to pretend that the device is perfect because it's not. There are many things to improve. Um, it's expensive. It's still heavy, very heavy, and it's not something we everyone will wear all day. I don't, so and also as I mentioned, hardware optimism dropped from 83% last year to 65 this year. So still hope and optimism, but less than 2025. So we can see the limits, and so yeah, skepticism is valid, but what I answer is where Apple Vision Pro brings real value to an enterprise, and we've seen many cases where the Apple Vision Pro can really have a strong interest and bring a strong value to enterprise, because yeah, it's expensive, but it's expensive compared to what. So when you have a defined use case like professional training or data visualization that help better understand any topics or data an enterprise could have. Um, you have it's really great to use the device, and also to have the integration with the ecosystem. With an iPad, a Mac, an iPhone is well integrated into the market, so that helps also on that part. Um, so I try to focus on the value, and For example, on the training, we've been working with the French national train company. And they see and they use one of our software to train their people, their worker, because we have a new amazing high speed train that will be released this year, this summer. So all the worker, all the trainers, all the technicians need to learn this new train, and it costs
Yeah.
a lot to isolate that train and bring all the technician on the field. So it's a virtual reality, and specifically the Apple Vision Pro with all the realism and this high quality rendering. It helps a lot for immersive training, and this is one of the top use case we saw, and we keep seeing, and it brings real value, and that's how we explain to enterprise I discussed with.
Yeah, and training is really an incredible use case. And
Yeah.
as you said, like in those cases where it's really either difficult or impossible, time, money to take people into different locations in trains. Also to do this training for dangerous situations, and also give access to all this, like I know in medicine there's all this like very expensive machines that you want to give access, and it's really incredible. And it's been so many studies where you get to learn within this format. It really gets stuck in your head much more than reading on just a book. And I remember when I was in high school, our biology class used to be like our teacher coming to the class, drawing on the blackboard. We would copy the drawing on our notebooks, and that was how we learned biology. But now when you open up there's some great biology apps on Apple Vision Pro. I'm so impressed. Like this would have helped so much, and it would have done learning so much fun in school for me. So it really is a future, and it's a great device for that. It's really good. And you mentioned this training platform that you've done, and I know you're working on a suite of tools. Could you share a little bit about what you're trying to solve with these tools that you're building?
Yeah, sure. And for that part, training composer, I'm a huge fan of learning by doing, and this is exactly why and how you really understand something. So VR is perfect for that. So definitely is one of the four projects, four software we develop. So it's training composer, because today you can create immersive training modules, but it costs a lot to create one module. Um, if you need to update it, it costs also. So you create an immersive platform that helps the former people, the people who made this training session, to easily get through their PDF and flat training session into immersive one. And it's perfect for industrial procedures, maintenance, safety, onboarding. We have many enterprise we've been discussing with who have issues and difficulties to create this experience. So it's one of the soft as a software as a service, so SaaS, a subscription to easily use this device. We also have another platform called Map Composer, which help enterprise to visualize infrastructure, spatial data, maps, 3D model in context for field operations, for complex sites, for strategic briefings, immersive sales presentation. We work with company in the energy industry in France, and they use it to better show their um, the different sites they have in France and Europe. So it's really great to use for any kind of visualization and to better understand the world. And you have the 3D rendering, like you are inside the Google geospatial, what's the name? Street view, but inside the headset, and you can bring your own content. So in one click, you can bring all the assets you can have, and also you have an AI tools inside that help you scrap the internet and all the data you need. It's quite high pitch, isn't great yet, quite new, but yeah, it's an amazing application to also to better understand the potential of the Apple device. It's
Amazing. I can imagine that being really great for real estate. I know that I worked quite with a
yeah,
few companies in Saudi Arabia, and I know that for all the projects in Dubai as well, like for all the projects, it's not just about the project, but it's also the surroundings and being able to see the neighborhood and being able to get the context of that, which is always like a huge selling point. So I can imagine that will really help
yeah,
investors and buyers and so on. So having that kind of
definitely.
solution.
And
Okay.
actually, that's the third platform we developed. It's a layout composer to help real estate companies to better sell and preview their environments. So we work with um, a German company on that. On that topic, and yeah, it will be an application that we release, I think, at the end of the year. And training a map composer will be released before. And we also have asset stage to review, validate, and collaborate around 3D assets and USD files. So really want to have a great integration in the enterprise. Yeah.
And Studio Meije is part of Studio 84, which is a collective. So
Yeah.
I would love to learn a little bit more about why a collective, why you joined, and what do you do together.
Yeah, actually, it's like what we do right now, the community, and we have a great community on the Apple, and Studio 84 is was made to bring the best experts on the field to release and create complex experiences and great application on the Apple Vision Pro. So we gathered the best developers, the best freelancers, immersive studio to better address and respond the enterprise demand. So it's not an agency; it's a more collective of individuals and companies that helping each others a bit in the idea of the community that keep yeah help each other.
It's great to have that group, and as it requires building something for Apple Vision Pro requires so much, and not to even go into immersive video, which is its own industry. And I know you have part of that collective. I believe it's Immersive Flashback, who are
Yeah,
specialized in this.
all the exactly. Will be immersive videos and yeah.
And we're getting to the end of it, and just to kind of like wrap it up, I want to ask you if there's what was the last one of the latest things you tried on the Apple Vision Pro that kind of like really surprised you or delighted you, something that you haven't built, but something from the community.
Yeah, but actually it was when we went to Let's Vision in Shanghai. It was the first time I participated to that event. I know you participated to the last one edition, and yeah, it was an amazing event in Shanghai, and I found it this morning. But yeah, we were very mind blown with an experience from Hello Meta, which is a company based in China, and they create an immersive museum, and it was like a LBE experience with 20 or 30 Apple Vision Pro. It was also the first time I did the LBE experience, location-based experience with Apple Vision Pro, and they made a setup to to have the headset on the head really well adjusted, and the experience was amazing, and they took advantage of all the features of the Apple Vision Pro. So yeah, I really enjoyed that experience. That was different from what we can see on the store. Yeah, I really love that experience, and yeah, also on the App Store there are many great experiences. I thought of Paradise, for example. The creator was there at the Let's Vision, and it will be at WWDC.
Yeah, that's Vision. It's really incredible conference. I've been there last year. We had a booth with a green spurt there, and I went around and tried experiences there, and I was mind blown of they
Yeah,
do it at a whole different level. And as you said, just being able to see like 30 Apple Vision Pros in an experience, it's really something
yeah,
incredible. And it's such a great conference event. And yeah, it's if everybody wants to join, I think it's one of the best conferences I ever attended. Okay, amazing. Yeah.
wow.
And just to kind of final question to wrap it up. You've been 10 years in this industry and you've been part of so many projects. Is there any of those projects that you've been part of that you wished more people would have gotten a chance to try it?
Yeah. Um, Well, I would say Mr. Studio, because it was very early, but it was already with the idea to provide um, tools for creative people, and to easily create and deploy experiences. Um, so yeah, it was kind of a leader in the industry. It was a very tiny industry, so I think we could have done more. And also not to pass on to mention only past experiences. I would say the TV Inouï experience app, La Grande Immersion, which is on the Apple Vision Pro. So if you have a Vision Pro, there's a new update of the application that provide a new outdoors environment. And also, I don't know if you already came to France, but it features a French Riviera, French Riviera, and it's a 5 kilometers long environment at and yeah, it's one of the best seas. So yeah, I think it's great to try and test if you want. And this experience, this application was made by Studio 84. So it was when the collective was created with the French uh, public train.
I tried the experience and it's really great. So I have to go and try the update with the background. And it is on my wish list to do
Yeah,
a tour in Europe with the train because we have those trains around and it takes you to really beautiful
yeah.
scenery. So now I can get to do that right away. So I don't have to wait.
And actually, a funny story. One Apple Vision Pro owner was traveling with his wife. I think it was last year. Yes, last year, and he bought his Vision Pro on the airplane, and he had his wife afraid of the plane. There were like turbulence, and he put the headset on his wife, and she used the application of the train, and she immediately relaxed and feels like she was in familiar environments, and that helps her getting relaxed and pass the turbulence in the airplane. So yeah, someone wrote it on the App Store. I don't remember who told me that, but I think it was a nice story of how Apple Vision Pro also could help people, and many different ways.
Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
power of Apple Vision Pro, and what
Yeah,
a great story to wrap up this conversation. And thank you so much for joining, and I can't wait to meet you and the team and everybody else
yeah,
in WWDC who is coming. And yeah,
yeah. I would love to. Thank you very much for having me. It's a real honor to be your first guest, and let's stay in touch. And also for the listeners, if you want to get in touch and have conversation, I'm always happy to do so.
Thank you.